Hello and welcome to the Jose Ortiz podcast today on Bookworm. Today I have Stefanie Gilmour, author of the Alex Steward series. Please welcome Stefanie. Stefanie, I'm so excited to have you here with us today to share about your series. And please give us a short introduction about yourself and obviously the Alex Steward series.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Jose. I'm very excited as well. Um, so I am a graphic designer who works in the Midwest, but also the author of the Alex Steward Urban Fantasy series. And the series features a female werewolf protagonist, and she is hiding out in the Midwest and trying to exist as both woman and werewolf.
All right. And what was the inspiration? Where did this come from? Like what?
So back in 2000, I think 16, I read a collected book of essays from Katie Anthony, and she had written one that talked about having, it was like a little poem about having a werewolf inside of her, and her werewolf came out more often than the full moon. And I have always been an urban fantasy fan. I really enjoy thinking that magic secretly exists in a modern world. And we just as common people don't know this. And so when I read that piece by Katie Anthony, I started to wonder, so what if you were a woman, but you really were a werewolf? And how would life even look? And how would you exist? So that's where the whole idea behind Alex's story came.
All right. And what is the setting in the Alex Stewart series? You got the different characters. You're in a small city, it seems. And what's kind of going there as far as the background and the settings and the what's happening here?
Sure. The setting for, I don't know how many readers have experienced the Midwest. And so our cities are very similar, especially if you have like a medium-sized city, which is where Alex's story takes place in the city of Hopewell. It is in Michigan and based very closely on a city in Michigan. But I still write it as a made-up city. And in the city of Hopewell, there exists a very large population of wizards and werewolves. And there are other different types of supernatural beings in the city, but they remain more underground and they don't socialize as much as the two other types of supernatural beings. And when Alex, at the point you join her in the story, she and her friend notice that there are some attacks and that are being leveraged against specifically supernatural beings, and they need to find out what that's all about, because beforehand they were able to live in secret and live normal lives like any other person would. Yeah, so they have to figure out what's going on now.
Okay. All right. No, this is wonderful. And tell us about you mentioned werewolves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned wizards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know there's other characters in the book. Should we talk about a couple of those
Yeah,
or
yeah. Something I tried to do because in urban fantasy, these supernatural beings are fairly common characters, like werewolves and magicians or sorcerers, or the fae kind, which are like your elves and fairy. And I tried to, each time I used one of them, I tried to twist it just a little bit so people have, these are familiar beings, but there's a little something I changed in them. And so some of the other characters you meet, or the character type, supernatural types you meet in Hopewell, are the fae. And I have them as the very old beings. They're tricksters. but one you meet exists as a stray cat. And then because they're kind of like shapeshifters, they have a glamour magic, so they can appear how they want to appear. Another type of supernatural being I have that you meet, I believe in book 2, I have a vampire. But the way I thought of vampires is that they still feed on human blood, my vampires do, but I imagine them as more of an alpha predator. And so there would not be many vampires together in one place. So the city of Hopewell itself, since it's a small city, maybe only has 2 vampires that exist in that area. And also the vampires are very protective of the people that they feed upon. So yeah, those are a few other of the supernatural beings you meet.
One of the things that I really liked about the book is, or the story, is how the supernatural coexist in the human world. And I just found it fascinating how you were able to really blend that together, where it was like really a lot of fun and just believable. Tell me a little bit about how you were able to kind of create that mix of the two worlds.
Sure, sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I really love urban fantasy, and that is because it has that blending of these fantastical elements, these that don't exist in our world, but we read about in like fantasy and sci-fi and sometimes horror. But then it takes these fantastical creatures, and all of a sudden they're a taxi driver because they have to exist in this world that we exist in. And I just love the idea of taking this person that has, so like I am like, well, Alex, she can't keep a job, you find out. But like her friend, she is losing jobs left and right. So maybe her very best friend Emma is a wizard. But she has a her type of magic is a healing magic. Well, she also is a very kind person, and a very empathetic person. So she finds her niche working in the nonprofit sector of the city. So she heads up a nonprofit that provides food and shelter for the unhoused in the city. And so I tried to blend to like what that character's natural draw would be to maybe their jobs or where they like to play and where they like to live, and blend that with just us human beings and moving around and coexisting with each other in a city setting.
Yeah, that was something that I really enjoyed. Just
Thank you.
throughout. Yeah, you did a great job with that. And
Thank you.
what was like some of the creative roadblocks you may have run into as you were putting this together, if any?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely
Okay.
had some challenges. So, again, I'll probably say it multiple times. I love urban fantasy. But one thing I noticed too, and one of the reasons I pursued the idea of a female werewolf protagonist is that in urban fantasy, there aren't many female werewolves. Usually the werewolf characters usually are males. They are portrayed as a type of alpha dominance, even though like science has disproved the whole alpha wolf thing. Or if it is a female werewolf, she is at the mercy of her mate. It's like very much she can't exist without her mate in urban fantasy, the werewolves, for some reason. And I'm like, I'm gonna throw all that out because I'm not interested in that. I want to do something a little different because I needed to do something a little bit different with a werewolf too, because there's so many werewolf stories. And yeah, so Alex is when you meet her, her best friend is a wizard. She's hanging out with the wizards and like just this common human. And so she has no pack politics or dynamics at all at first, because she's actually not really at peace with the part of her that's werewolf. So that in my marketing has been very challenging to communicate to the reader or to my possible readers, because a lot of people, when they look at, oh, this is a werewolf story, especially since it's a woman, they think it's a romance. And paranormal romance is part of urban fantasy. It's like a branch off of urban fantasy. And so people are used to reading werewolves, woman, romance. And it's like, no, she is, I mean, it's not that she's opposed to it. It's just she's too busy punching bad guys that like have romance be the central theme of her life. And also, I just really love action too. And so how fun with like magic and like these, because where the werewolves are almost like superheroes, right? They have like supernatural strength, supernatural healing, speed. And so I like to write it, I like more action and intrigue in my story. So I think that creatively has been the most challenging bit, is to communicate that to my possible readers, is that this is a fast-paced, action-forward urban fantasy with a female werewolf.
That's a lot, but that's exactly what it is, and it's a lot of fun. And you
Mhm.
had a really good time. I mean, how many? So we have this was the first book, right?
Yes.
The Fear of the Wolf, right?
Yep. Fear the Wolf is the first book in the series. Yep.
Okay, so how many books now are we up to? Are you up to?
So I have 3 published, and I'm actually going to be releasing the 4th one at the end of May.
Or the end of May?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
So
that's
that will be next month.
okay. Okay, so that's good to know. So we're going to be 4 books into it. So
Yep.
this is really good. And one of the things that I wanted to go back to is like in the story about the clubs, uh,
Mhm.
especially where the werewolves hang out.
Yes.
Um, Maybe you can share with us a little bit about the club. And one of the things that I also really liked was the music.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the club and the music and the dancing and the all of it.
Yeah, yeah. So the in the world that I built in the city of Hopewell, the supernatural beings have certain venues that they can go to and feel safe, because it's kind of veiled by some kind of ward or something. The wizards do this a lot. So there's like a cafe they have that all the supernatural kind know they can go to this, and it's kind of just overlooked by other people. So they know they can go there and be safe and be themselves and be safe. The werewolves are a little bit more open to partying with anyone that shows up. And so one thing about Alex is that she has very high anxiety, and she has some PTSD, sort of like trauma issues, especially with a wild creature, this werewolf inside her body, that she's a little frightened. So she has these coping mechanisms, and one of them is music. She absolutely loves music. And her friend, Emma, her best friend, also does, and that's actually how they meet, is at their favorite music club. Um, it's called the Sound Refuge, and I tried to name it in a way too that kind of gives the reader a hint that this is a place Alex goes with her friends a lot, and just like forgets that she can't keep a job and forgets all that anxiety, and just she loves to dance, she loves to listen to music and just be in the present moment with her friends. So yeah, I have a lot of, and I really love music too. So I have all kinds of genres of music in there, some old industrial music, all kinds of EDM music. And then when you head over to the Werewolves Club, they have a lot more harder rock and metal and a lot of punk rock music, because they're a little bit more wild, but still have that idea of community being built around the love of music. And so that's kind of how I wield music in that story.
I know that was a lot of fun. Sometimes I felt like dancing as I was reading the story.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You get to go somewhere and forget about your stresses and what's bringing you down in life and just like enjoy the music with your community, and connect that way.
One of the things I just heard you mention is PTSD and trauma. And is are those like underlying themes that you were looking to touch on purpose? Did that kind of come out, or what's kind of on there with some of that?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little bit more of the heavier themes in the series so far. So another thing I did with my a lot of them, not all of them, but the wizards and werewolves that you meet in the first book, their I attributed their abilities to like their ability to wield magic for the wizards, or their ability to tap into that werewolf, that primal strength and source of abilities in the werewolves. They have a recessive gene in their bodies, and so this gene can be passed through generations of a family. But there's something that will happen I to that person during their life that triggers that gene. And so that gene kind of awakens these powers. So it's the body's response to something that distresses it, that it's trying to protect that person. And that's something that I read in preparation for this. I read The Body Keeps the Score, and it talks about how trauma can trigger defense responses in the body. And so for Alex, something happens to her fourth year of college, triggers her werewolf gene, and now she has to learn how to move forward with her body responding so violently to any kind of threat to her. um, and she doesn't quite have control because there's a part of trauma where the brain and body aren't quite aligned. And so the body can react violently when the brain doesn't even really realize that that's happening. So
Oh,
that's kind of an issue I explore, especially with Alex as my protagonist.
wow. Okay. All right. And what was something that you enjoyed that kind of bubbled up through this creative process as you were putting this together?
Mhm. I um I think that I enjoyed how I guess I so this is Fear the Wolf is my first novel, and I guess I didn't realize how many people are involved in crafting a story. So you're talking about the creative process, and I drafted the book, but then I have a first reader that reads all my drafts, and I got feedback and I revised it. And then I have a group of beta readers and they read it. Yeah, yeah, right? Yeah. And they give feedback, and it's just, and then, it goes to a dev editor, a copy line editor. There's just so much input that crafts a story. Like when you hold a book in your hands, there are so many minds, yeah, that have touched that story by the time it actually is a physical book. And I thought that was really fun to discover as a first time author.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really nice. And can you maybe share with, I've been curious about the publisher. How was the publishing process for you?
Yeah. So I, the reason I'm laughing because that was a very long process. Um, So this series is self-published. So I'm actually the publisher, but I wrote the first book in the series, and the way traditional publishing works right now is that we have about 5 publishing houses left. I'm in the US. So in the United States, we have about 5 publishing houses left, the big ones that publish books. For a writer to get their book into one of the 5, they need an agent as a go-between. So when a writer has a story crafted, what they have to do is go out, it's called querying. You write your query letter, and you, I don't know, sometimes I feel like it's blind dating. Like you just are like sending the letters out and you're like, hey, look at this thing I created. Will you represent me? Because once an agent picks an author, then the agent has to go and try to sell the book. So that's like just one step in the whole entire process. And so I queried Alex's first story for about a year and a half. It's a very disheartening process
Okay.
because you get rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. I read the book on writing by Stephen King, and he talked about just taking his pile of rejection letters and posting them beside his computer to show, or his, well, I guess it was his typewriter, he said, just to show that the effort was being made, just so he wouldn't quit. So I did that. I just started hanging up all my rejection letters. And while I was doing that, I wrote the second and third book. And then by the time I finished the first arc, which is the first 3 books in the series, I decided, I had also had a author tell me the big 5 right now are not buying urban fantasy because they don't believe that readers are buying urban fantasy in bookstores. The other genres, there are other genres that are really hot right now, and that's what they're buying. So unless you were a big author that already has made them a lot of money, they're not going to take any chances on new urban fantasy authors. And so after a year and a half of rejections and then the author telling me that, I thought, well, I'm going to self-publish them because I think that people might be interested in this story. So it's a very long journey,
Well,
but
I think this is a really good story. It's a wonderful inspiration, and I'm grateful and I'm so happy and glad that you didn't quit.
thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear because because indie authors need that kind of encouragement. Like, because there are multiple times along the journey we're like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Oh, this is great. I mean, I'm just so glad that we're here and that we met and that we connected, and here we are, less than a year later. And I've read all the books. I've read what are those called? The short stories that you have? What are those? Those?
I don't know. That's just, you mean the ones through the newsletter?
Yeah,
Yeah, they're just short stories
yeah. So
because
I've been.
they're about 3,000 words or less, or yeah,
Those
just
are
short
a lot of
stories.
fun.
Mhm.
And where can we find the book? Being that you're self-published, where is the book available? Where?
Sure. Through my research into self-publishing, it was important to me that I'm a big public library nerd. I love public libraries. And so it was important to me when self-publishing that the library could get my book. So that was one thing that was, and it also was important to me that if someone went into Barnes and Noble, or someone went into their indie bookstore I'm in the Midwest, so someone in Seattle went into their indie bookstore, that they would be able to talk to a bookseller and say, can you order this book for me? And the bookseller would be able to go to their distribution system and order the book in. So with those 2 things in mind, I did some research and I found out who distributes for the big 5. The company is called Ingram Spark. And so they are the ones that actually do a lot of the printing of the books, and they do the distribution through the US. And they do have a self-publishing wing to that. So I uploaded my book into their system. So now if you go to Barnes and Noble will not carry my book on their shelf because I'm a little fledgling author that doesn't bring them a lot of money. Most of the booksellers will never have heard of me. And the real estate in the physical store is so valuable. They're going to give it to an author who everyone sees all the time, right? Because that's how they exist. That's how they make their money. But if you go into a Barnes and Noble, you can ask the bookseller, hey, can I order this in? And they'll do that because it's in the system in Ingram Spark where they order all their other books. And they know that if you're ordering it in, that's a guaranteed sale. So it's not something that's going to be taking up space that they're not selling. So, and then also with Ingram Spark, the libraries are able to get a hold of it as well. Yeah, so.
All right,
Yeah.
so but that's good to know.
So you can find it at any bookstore, any indie bookstore, any chain bookstore like Barnes and Noble or Schuler Books in Michigan. I guess that's one of our bigger bookstores. You can find it online anywhere, really. Anywhere books are sold online, you can find it. In fact, you can find it on the Barnes and Noble website. So yeah, and I have it available as print, but then I also have it available as ebook. So anywhere you can order ebooks, you can find it. Any website, the big website that everyone orders a lot of their ebooks from. I don't have it just available on that site. I wanted it available because I also wanted my ebooks available at the library. So I'm not just on that website. I'm on many websites. You can get the ebook, and I also have audiobooks. So you can go to Google Play or Apple Audio, Spotify. It's on Audible, and you can get the ebook, or excuse me, the audiobooks as well. So really anywhere you can get a book.
Oh,
It's a really short answer, which I should have just said.
let's talk about the audiobook
Yeah.
because I've been wanting to get the audiobook and I haven't yet. So that's been on my back burner, and
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna pick it up. Share with us about the audiobook and like who was doing the narration and how did you
Sure.
put that together, because that's sort of new for me, and
Right.
and you might be the first book that I download in audio.
Cool. That will be so fun. Um, the audio book, so everybody reads differently. And I thought I've had a lot of people, I sell my book at live events. That's another way you can get a book, I guess. And I noticed people saying, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I have too much going on. Even in my friend group, there are some people that I noticed, uh, I'm I'm too busy, but I have a long commute. I read with audiobooks. We have a friend that paints in the evening at home. So his hands are occupied. So he's like, I read with audiobooks. I have another friend who lives with dyslexia. And so reading a print book is very challenging. So he reads with audiobooks. And I thought, well, let's see if I can make this available as an audiobook. I had to do a Kickstarter because if you want to hire a voice actor or actress, it's well worth the money. But if you want to hire one of those, it's extremely expensive. So the way I even got my audiobooks out was by running Kickstarter campaigns to help fund them because they're so extremely expensive. I say as a small indie author who foots all the expense for the books, the production of the books, right? And the way I found my voice actress is that there is a company called Findaway Voices that helps authors produce their audiobooks. They have since then been bought by Spotify. But when Findaway Voices was an independent company, they had a marketplace. And so as an author, I was able to write up a job brief, a description of my book, and post it. And then I was able to go through the voice actors and actresses and pick a few out and send an invitation to them to audition. And so what happened is that I started getting these like little clips where they were reading part of my story. And I could then select someone. My husband and I were listening to Tia Ryder's audition tape when it came in. He was with Sing Beside Me, and we listened to her recording of the bit of the first chapter of my book, and we looked at each other and we're like, this is Alex. This is my werewolf. Right? It just like I got goosebumps because her voice is a lower alto, it's a little growly, and I'm like, There she is. There's Alex. So I worked with Tia to put the audiobook together.
Okay, so you had one narrator for the whole book?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was very important to me that she also knew, she didn't just read the book. In, she like embodied the characters too. She had different voices for different
Oh,
characters. So you can, when you're listening to a book, it helps you to very distinctly tell between who is speaking at the time, which character.
okay. And uh, are all the books on audio, or is this just the one?
The first three are.
Oh, you got all three on audio already? Wow, that's congrats. That's
Thank
great.
you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a bit of a feat.
Yeah.
But I think this fourth one, I am going to have to wait for a little bit. I'm still trying to decide on that because I'm still trying to find how to market audiobooks because they're completely different than ebooks and print books, the way you would market them. So because again, being a self-published author, you're also the marketing department. So I'm trying to find the best way to market audiobooks.
All right, that's good to know. I just really learned a lot through speaking with you today. This is great. I'm glad we have the time to talk.
Mhm.
What about, as we sort of wrap things up, I was just curious if you have any final words of encouragement, anything that you would like to share as we come to an end here.
Sure. Yeah. Uh, well, as far as encouragement for if there are other writers, um, one thing that I noticed was I started writing Fear the Wolf at the end of 2019, not knowing what was right around the corner for the world. So, but once we all emerged from our homes again, uh, I found a local writing community, like a writing group. And that really has been helpful as far as motivation to continue writing because writing can be very lonely at times. And so and very challenging because there's a lot of rejection involved in writing, tons of rejection. It's rough sometimes. So when you are in, again, community, when you find your community of writers and when you're with them working on your story, crafting your story, they are facing not exactly the same, but very similar challenges as you. So you can all keep each other going and like keep each other motivated. Like, yes, this is a hard time. Yes, you're struggling right now, but the world needs your story. So keep writing, keep writing. So that's usually the number one thing I share with writers because I guess I didn't expect that to be as important as it is to my writing. And then a last thought for readers is I really, really appreciate readers who take a chance on smaller authors like myself because I don't have the marketing budget of a big publishing house. I don't have an agent to schedule a book tour for me. Most of the time when I'm not even really, if I were to take my book to Barnes and Noble, I don't think they would even grant me a meeting to put my book on their shelf because they have it through their website. And again, it's that real estate they want to give to the larger name authors. So when a reader takes a chance on an indie author, it just is very helpful, very, very helpful. And also sharing their work through word of mouth, recommending it to friends, leaving a review on their book so other people know how you enjoyed it. The readers are a huge part of driving an indie author's career forward. And I'm just really, really grateful for that. So I don't think that sometimes readers understand how big of a part they play in the support of indie authors. It's a huge support. So I'm very grateful and I want them to know that.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because sometimes as a reader, it get lonely too. So it's really good to hear this. This might be the first time I actually heard this uh, expressed this way. And it does really touch my heart because I've been, reading you and supporting you, for close
A
to it.
while.
And it's been just wonderful. I've been really enjoying, what you're doing. I mean,
Mhm.
and it's funny because you're actually on my radar somehow. Because I remember when I met you, I don't know if you remember when we met, I said, "Oh, wait, I recognize the cover." And
Yeah.
and your book was actually somehow in my queue for me to pick up at some point. So
Uh-huh.
you were already on the radar somehow, and it was just a matter of us connecting and be like, "Oh, I know that book." And then I saw the face, and I got to know you, and it's just been really great.
Yeah, yeah, I've really enjoyed it too. Yeah, and it's just, and some readers have told me, well, I felt really weird, like would get a message from a reader through my social media account or something, and they send me a message and they say, oh, they're always so apologetic. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I hope this isn't weird, but I wanted you to know how much I enjoyed your story. And I'm like, that is not weird. That actually gave me the power to keep going today.
Oh,
So don't hesitate. I mean, don't sit outside their door, right? I mean, don't get that kind of weird, but like sending a message or a little note or an email saying, hey, I enjoyed your story. That's just super positive and very welcome. I know, at least among the indie authors, I know enough myself.
all right. So I will keep the support going. I've been sharing your book and
Thank you.
this now.
And I appreciate it. It's just very valuable to smaller authors. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And with one last thing, I mean, just for fun, it's like I was just kind of like throwing in a fun question, just kind of curious to see, what is something that maybe you do every day that's fun or lifting or inspiring? What's something that Stephanie does?
Well, I am a gardener. So,
Mhm.
so I am very excited that we're coming out of winter here. It's spring right now, and my garden is starting to wake up. And so you often hear of like maybe writers, or like when a person's problem solving, they're like, oh, go take a shower, because in the shower you get all these great ideas. Well, that happens to me when I'm gardening, because it, in the same way, let's as I'm weeding or doing something in the garden, I'm enjoying nature, enjoying my the outdoors, but it lets my mind spin and like wander like that, so I can work through any kind of plot snarls that I might have, or get even ideas for new stories. Yeah.
Wow,
So gardening, I like the garden.
that's cool. I like that. I wasn't expecting that, but that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna wrap this up. I just wanted to thank Stephanie for joining me today,
And
and
thank you. Thank
you
you for
know,
having me.
this is great, and I look forward to the audiobook, all three of them. I look, I look forward to the next book, which is in May. And
Mhm.
I know as a beta reader, I'll be getting a head start on that for you.
Yes, you'll be getting it at the beginning of May. Everyone else has to wait till the end, but you will be getting it at the beginning of May. Yep.
Okay. And that's pretty much it. Did you want to add anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think I am all set. I'm just very grateful that you gave me your time. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'm grateful as well and humble. So thank you. And just want to say goodbye, Stephanie, and thank you for your time. And we will connect soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. Bye.